start. Okay, thank you everybody and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you particularly for taking your time out of your busy Fridays. I know how busy we all are, and this is a really important topic for us all to explore together, so thank you. The title of it, What Modern HRDs Are Doing Differently Right Now to Succeed Where Others Aren't. Now, the webinar will be in 4 parts. The context, a little bit of what's going on in the world. And then my co-host today will introduce you to officially in a second. Michelle will share and showcase how she's addressing the organisational challenges in practice. Also, then the third part, how we at Coaching Culture here can help. And then the 4th part will be key takeaways and offer of support. But before we start, and I know a few of you have already been saying good morning, which is lovely. We'd love you to introduce yourselves in the chat. It's always wonderful to know who else is on the call, so who you are and where you're from. So if you're happy to, please start saying your hellos. This feels like we need some music, don't we?
I have to say there are a few names that I recognise, so thank you to all of you people who have come along to join. It's lovely to see you.
See the chats now. Hello, are they coming through now? Hello, hello, hello. Amy, we'll see you in a week or 2. The conference. Siobhan. Hello. Thank you. Wow, South Africa, thank you very much, Joanne, for joining us all the way from one of our partners there in South Africa. Thank you. Rob, hello. Wow, some fabulous names. Debbie from Coaching Culture, Debbie in bed with COVID. Oh, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We've got some brilliant names coming through. Really, really appreciate that.
I love the fact that we're medicine for those that are sick.
Oh, I know, yes. Debbie will be sat listening and watching from her bed. What else would you be doing from your COVID bed? Oh, wow. This is amazing. People dialing in from India. Sunny Milton Keynes, I'm guessing. Right, what Yorkshire. Well, you are watching from my sick bed. Well, let's make a start. Thank you so much, everybody. Genuinely, really appreciate your time. And it's wonderful to have so many fabulous names from amazing organisations joining on such an important topic. But first, let me introduce you to myself and Michelle, who's my guest for today.
Good morning, everybody. Delighted to be here.
Hey, Michelle. First off, introduce you to myself, which is I'm Jo Wright, the co-founder and CEO of Coaching Culture. It's really interesting. I can't quite believe it, but I've got a career now that spans nearly 30 years. And in that time, I've worked with different functions from sales, marketing, and obviously HR. And in that time, I've experienced so many changes and many different organisational needs, but none quite as stark as the times we're in right now. It's absolutely unprecedented. First, then, let me introduce my guest today. So we've got the wonderful Michelle Reid, who is the People and Operations Director for the Institute of Occupational Medicine, and very proudly been named as one of HR's most influential of 2022. Now, Michelle is a long-time friend and super fan of Coaching Culture. In fact, she still wears a very big badge saying #1 customer, which did actually mean the very first customer. And she tells everybody every opportunity. So she's been around with us for a long time. And she epitomises everything we stand for and a true role model of how modern HRDs are operating. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me today on our co-host in the webinar. And before we make a start, and as Coaching Culture is all about sharing ideas and bringing together like-minded people among your fellow HRDs, if you're happy to, I'd love you to share one last thing in the chat, which is answering this question. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now in your organisation? Because I'm sure we'll be covering some of that off today. So if you are happy, please chat away and share your biggest challenge that you're facing right now. Okay, development and retention, recruitment, retention, recruitment. Operational silos, communication, combating fear. More flexibility in benefits, aftermath of COVID. Talent retention, recruitment and funding. Retention. And retention. Attraction and attrition fear culture. Recruitment, retention, these are coming out loud and clear. Home working versus back to the office and everything that brings. Yep. Senior leadership, talent planning, engagement due to external uncertainty. Yeah. A lot of things coming through here. Lack of budget, public sector, retention. Okay, well, thank you so much. And today, you know, we're going to be covering off things that let's bring together how we can support those challenges, because everything we're talking about today is about the challenges and also the solutions and how modern HR are actually operating to solve some of those issues. Okay, so let's make a start. So the context, I said 4 parts. Part 1, the context. Well, we've already intimated that on the chat. The past few years have been turbulent. And now while we dusted ourselves off from Brexit and what that was going to mean to us all, we then entered the new decade full of optimism and hope. And then the global pandemic sent us reeling. And for many of us, that meant us packing up our work bags and heading home. But it was anxious times, and it still is. We didn't know how to feel, we didn't know what to do, and we didn't know how to be. What we didn't realise at that time was that we will be still feeling the impact of the pandemic over 2 years later. It's fair to say that the pandemic has had such a deep and lasting impact. It's changed the world forever, and certainly the world of work. There's a feeling of exhaustion still, overwhelm, social anxiety. We've just not bounced back to how it was before. And people have really stopped and thought long and hard about what they want from their lives and their work. It's created the great reevaluation, reevaluating what matters to people most in their work and their lives. And for me, that's all the same thing. It's life. It's created the Great Resignation. So we've already alluded to it in the chat. You know, people, we're struggling to keep hold of people. It's created quiet quitting. People silently disengage with their roles. And ultimately, it's created the great power shift, the shift from organisation to individual. All against a backdrop of some crazy, crazy headlines. The cost of living crisis, rail strikes, Royal Mail strikes, a war in Ukraine, inflationary increases, housing market uncertainty, energy crisis. And for those eagle-eyed, sharp-eyed people, you might have noticed that we've got the daily headlines from even this morning, because here we are, not to mention number 10. And to top it all off, one of our stabilising figureheads of the last 70 years have passed away. So let's face it, let's just think about all of that in a backdrop to a global pandemic. No wonder employees are exhausted. They're fragile. It's been relentless. And even the most resilient of people have had to dig deep to look for joy in their lives. And who does this impact every single time? It impacts HR. And HR have equally been exhausted. Organisations are having to address a different set of employee needs versus those of previous generations. Hybrid working, well-being first, mental health, diversity and inclusion, and end-to-end employee experience. All of these things against all of that backdrop. It is phenomenal. Now, the role of HR has been changing. And now I know, I said that my career spans back 30 years. So I remember in the early 1990s when I first started my career, and the perception of HR, they had their own offices, they worked behind closed doors, and you knocked on that door with some fear and trepidation. And trust was pretty low. In fact, it was very low. Whereas in recent years, that's been changing. HR has changed. There has been a focus on technology, data, HR processes, and scalable self-service support systems, all hugely valuable. But the question has to be, and the question has been asked, has the balance shifted too far? And HR, and modern HR, has been adapting, changing. HR are there now to meet people where they're at now. The focus has had to shift, and the shift has been significant, happening over time, and a real positive shift from the transactional to the transformational. But while it's been changing, let's be clear that one thing has remained constant, and that is HR remains the voice of the people, the conscience of the organisation. And it's allowed HR to really, really, truly showcase their skills and expertise and to role model the behaviours expected to build a culture of trust. Now, while the change has already been happening, the pandemic triggered a massive shift. And HR did admit that they didn't have all the answers. They too were part of this global uncertainty, the very one that had no rule book. We all experienced it at the same time together. But HR, those who were the best, led with humanity. They showed empathy and compassion. They showed their own vulnerabilities, and they built trust through communication and conversations. They gathered feedback, how people were feeling, what they needed. They empowered leaders and managers to do what was absolutely right for their people, and relationships have flourished on the back of it. Now, you may be thinking, okay, Jo, but that was then, and this is now. And you might be asking, so now what? Which way do I turn in times like these? Where do I focus my energies? And they're all great questions. But before I answer it, when thinking all of this through, I just want you to take a moment to reflect on this quote that I heard only this week. The rate of change today is faster than it's ever been, but it's never going to be this slow again. Just think that through. It's never going to be this slow again. And I don't know about you, but I certainly ain't feeling that it's very slow at this moment in time. So we have to be ready. We absolutely have to be ready. So some research to back all this up. Back in June 2021, the global management consultancy McKinsey carried out research with more than 70 chief HR officers in some of Europe's largest organisations. And the core message was that the vast majority were eager to shift to a model that they were calling back to human. So where they were putting people first. Now, the research highlighted an uncomfortable paradox that up until recent times, opportunities to build meaningful relationships have been disrupted. Disrupted because of the very areas such as improved technology, processes. While all these things were adding value, they weren't enough to build a really resilient organisation. They were so eager then to move back to this back to human model. And why? Why is that? Because the workplace should be a place where people feel safe and supported. People in an organisation need to be there for each other. They need to feel cared for. They need to care for each other. And absolutely, HR needs to provide the right resources at the time of need. They need to provide the systems, policies and procedures, but on their own, they won't work. They need to be there to have conversations at the time of need. They need to show empathy. They need to lead the way with all of this, because that's what we're expecting of our leaders and managers. And out of this research, the respondents identified the real key areas that they wanted to focus on. 98% responded that they wanted employees to be able to bring their whole self to work, permission to be themselves, respecting individuality. 90% responded that they wanted to engage more deeply with their own employees, have conversations, build that trust. And 85% said they wanted to pave the way for the new possible, to empower employees across the organisation to make decisions. So it's clear that trust in relationships are at the core, and that's what modern HRDs are doing. They're the ones who have the maximum impact. They know their people. It's about being back to human, which is all about showing empathy. Having conversations that build trust and gather insight and data and feedback, and enabling leaders and managers to spread that decision making. And the result of that is a modern, impactful and strategic HR function that is absolutely critical to organisational success. So let me now hand over to Michelle, who's already introduced herself. Michelle is a successful and experienced HRD who can share how she has done this in practice. So Michelle, you are a great advocate of people and processes, and you are particularly known for your human approach to your organisation, and you've had fantastic results on the back of it. So please do tell us more about what you've done to enable this in your organisation.
Okay, thank you.
Over to you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So a little bit about me then. So I left school at the very young age of 16, and over that time I have gathered over 25 years of HR, business and leadership experience, and I have got loads of stories to tell. Over the years I've been involved in and had to deliver strategic and operational leadership and manage the challenges and needs associated with complex organisations. I've also been very humbled and lucky to be recognised for developing programmes, processes which improve efficiency, profitability, competitive positioning and operational delivery. And I now find myself as People and Operations Director at the Institute of Occupational Medicine, or IOM for short. So who are we at IOM? I've got to do a plug for the business. We are a for good, not-for-profit organisation, and we work really hard to protect health through the workplace and wider environments. We've got multidisciplinary teams who work together with external stakeholders and partners to investigate and solve workplace and environmental challenges. And through our research and our services, our mission is to make the world a healthier, safer and more sustainable place to live and work. And it's one of the reasons that I was drawn to IOM as an organisation. It is an absolutely amazing purpose, an amazing organisation, brilliant people, and I would encourage you to look us up. You'll be amazed at some of the things that we have done and can do for organisations. So here at IOM, I am a member of the Board of Management, and my purpose is to unlock the value and potential of our people to enable commercial success. My purpose enables me to drive effective culture and provide a psychologically safe environment where effective systems and processes and where people are able to perform at their best and feel valued. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey with IOM then. So I joined about 4.5 years ago, and time has flown. When I first joined, I was HR manager. I joined the business and it was really clear that actually they weren't looking for an HR manager at all. They were looking for and needed a strategic partner to help transform the culture. The trouble was that they didn't know it. So the big challenge was to build relationships and use my skills to help others come together for our common purpose and vision. So the challenge I had was that I didn't have a clue about the business, both the operating model, the service provision, the resource requirements, and how was I possibly going to be able to make a difference and add value when I had so little to my, so little knowledge to help me along the way. So I made a conscious decision not to jump in with 2 feet. I had learned that lesson over time, both personally and from others who made that mistake. We've all done it. Went into a new organisation, we've tried to hit the ground running, we've tried to run 100 miles an hour and, showcase jazz hands, everything that we could do. I actually made a conscious decision not to do that. I decided that I was going to take the time just to connect with people, observe and listen. So I spent time in every area of the business at all levels, asking people really simple questions. I asked them about themselves, their career journey, what they enjoyed about work, but also what would they change if they could. And it's amazing how many people just want to be heard. I had lab analysts enthusiastically showing me their instrumentation, bamboozling me with science and their analysis. I had researchers sharing academic achievements and approaches. I had engineers telling me a little bit about the stuff that they did on site. None of it I understood anything about, but that really didn't matter because my focus was not to become an expert. I know now, with all those years under my belt, that to help an organisation, I do not need to know everything. All I need to do is have a bit of an understanding and walk a day in the shoes of the people who are there every day, hear how they felt about the business and about the culture. And so I wanted to build that understanding, develop trust and to drive change, and connecting with people and having meaningful conversations enabled me to do that. So the first couple of months were amazing. So I met most people and my strategy pretty much wrote itself. Because the people in the business had all the answers, but they weren't sharing and they weren't speaking out because they were jaded. They hadn't been listened to. Over time, they had given up. And all I really had to do was to help their voices be heard. And that is easier said than done. So my trick was to build relationships with the other managers and senior leaders and then connect them with what their people were saying. I effectively had to have conversations with them. In those conversations, I encouraged and coached them in the art of actually talking and listening, but listening with intent to their people. I was also able to drip feed ideas and steer people in the direction that would help drive improvement and efficiencies. And in essence, I had to use what I knew about them and their people and adjust my style to get what was needed for the business. For some, it was absolute straight talking, direct approach, direct feedback. For others, it was ego massaging, and for others, it was suggestive mentoring. And I effectively became a chameleon of people's styles. I also worked out what battles to fight and which ones to chip away at quietly in the background. I accepted that some things would take time and a bit of effort, and I had to be patient. I kept providing feedback, sharing data, amplifying the employee voice, and demonstrated where effective change could make a difference. The main thing was to demonstrate success so that others would follow. How could I possibly expect people to change if I didn't show them what could be done? Because people are inherently frightened of change and what it means for them. Sometimes they need to be seen, they need to see, but they also need to be shown. So I started with my team. So when I was promoted to people director at the time, I then had a team of people that comprised of business admin, marketing, facilities, quality assurance, health and safety, all of those fundamentally important processes and people, but who sometimes get forgotten about or nobody wants to own. So I essentially connected them with purpose rather than task, and we process mapped, automated, digitalised what we could, and then we shored up time for them to be upskilled and given time to do the same with others in the business. It wasn't about reducing headcount, it was about freeing time for valuable work. And now they do that with people across the board. We've moved from being the business blockers to the business partners, where we enable, we coach, we support, and we upskill others to become their best selves. In addition, during that time, I created, with the support of external learning partners, a leadership development programme that uncovered people's preferences and styles. We held a mirror to their faces so that they could understand themselves and the impact that they had on others. And we provided behavioural training that would help transformational change and improved culture. We also introduced technology that helped to capture voice, how people felt at work, and enhanced two-way communication. Nothing startling with the programme, by the way, right? It's completely back to basics: teamwork, communication, feedback, managing conflict. What was really different, though, was that it wasn't an out-the-box, this is what you do step by step. It was here's how to do it in the context of your work at IOM. So the same principles, but with a practical approach. We were trying to enhance the day-to-day, not add to it. In particular, in our organisation, people are very analytical and they're very compartmentalised. So it's, I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to do this, rather than what can I use to be the best and to deliver the best with everything joined together. We also reframed and reconnected people to purpose, because when people forget why they do what they do, they lose interest and motivation and they just get task driven. But when you get them to really connect to that, it totally changes their mindset, and they go from very much a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And I kid you not, it happens in an instant, an absolute instant. And it does sound really fancy, but in reality, all we did was behavioural assessment. We got people talking and sharing. We listened to what people said about the business, why they work here, what they liked, what they disliked, and what they would change if it was their business. We then focused on what was getting in the way and enabled them to see how they could change it. And most of the time, they were getting in their own way. What we did what we said we would do. We got back to basics with conversation, education, and coaching. And we kept giving the feedback. So we did the you said, we did, but we also did the now let's deliver, because it's quite important that people understand what's expected. And the messaging and the constant communication in a variety of ways was absolutely key. And then the pandemic hit, and there was absolute panic. And I genuinely thought we were going to have to close the business. So I had sleepless nights, as I'm sure we all had. I was worried for our people, myself, my family. It was completely uncharted territory for everyone. And as a board, we had to pull up our big people panties and get on with it. We were the leadership team. None of us had the answers, and none of us knew what was in store, but we just decided to be honest and authentic. We got everybody together. We had an honest conversation with them all, and we were open and transparent, and we asked for their help. The response was truly remarkable and humbling. I get quite emotional actually even thinking about it. So everyone in the organisation rallied round. Within 24 hours, we were fully remote and functional. We had a group of people who couldn't work, who offered to and agreed to furlough. The remaining people offered and agreed to work shorter hours and reduce pay. We process mapped the business, digitalised and automated as much as we possibly could. We had people redeployed to chase debts that had been outstanding for a long time, and those who could supported the NHS in their fight against the virus. When I stand back now and I reflect on that time, I can actually see where the investment in our people actually paid off, because the skills we developed and the coaching we did to unlock our people shone through. They talked to each other, they shared their fears, their hopes, their ideas, they took action and they supported each other and they worked collaboratively without barriers. It was absolutely amazing. And I fast forward now 2 years later and our business is profitable with reserves in the bank. Previously, we constantly floated around the break-even point, and pre-pandemic we were borrowing money to pay the salaries. We're now structured to purpose. We have a good pipeline of work and we're being more proactive in our brand promotion and influence in the workplace and environmental exposure space. We've also embraced technology. We've invested in our infrastructure, digitalised a lot of old resource-heavy processes, upskilled our people, invested in people development, and as a result, we're profitable. And as a result, we are profitable, effective, productive, and we have a bright future ahead of us. Sorry, totally tripped over myself there as I was thinking about that. And our systems and processes are fundamentally end user centric. They're for our people and our clients. It's about what's the best way to ensure the best possible service delivery. It's about enhancing the experience for both the people and the clients, not just about minimising risk. And don't get me wrong, we are not perfect, not by an absolute long shot, but our journey is well and truly begun, and there is absolutely no looking back. So what do I do every day? Somebody asked me this before, and I don't do a lot. All I do is I talk to people. My day is littered with coaching conversations, and I rarely come away with anything to physically do, because I talk to people who are invested in doing it themselves and constantly developing. I just give them a safe space to think, to talk, to vent, to cry, to jump up and down with delight, whatever it is that's needed. That's what I give them, and sometimes just with a little mentoring nudge along the way. So unlocking people and enabling success is not about getting people to change their minds and think like you. It's about understanding how other people think, where they're coming from, and being curious about their world. Because only when you have done this can you have a meaningful conversation where you share thoughts, ideas, challenges, and then agree a common purpose, vision, and mutual way forward. It's important that you don't operate as if you're right and everyone else is wrong. Be curious about the world from other people's point of view. You'll learn loads and you'll grow massively. But it's also important not to compromise your own values either. Be true to yourself and be honest with others about your world, because you matter too. Once you've walked in their shoes, invite them to walk in yours, because that will help them empathise, build relationships, and develop further. And I know I make it sound really easy, but it's really not. And I'd love to tell you that it was, but it's really not. The sad fact is that there isn't a silver bullet, and there is a lot of trial and error. I was really lucky because I came across Jo and the team, and I am absolutely #1 customer, and no one will ever take that away from me by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm an absolute super fan, because their solutions and their support helped me to achieve what was needed. I was able to utilise technology till its fullest. Not everything was new. We just need to understand what we had and make use of everything at our fingertips. And we use technology to enhance and enable human interaction and experience, not as an add-on or a blocker. I developed my own network of support with those I worked with, and my external partners became and continue to be an extension of my team. They help me hold my nerve, be patient and build resilience, because you need a lot of that. They come to me, they help me to keep believing in myself and what we're doing, because unfortunately success doesn't come immediately. And with all great journeys, there's bumps in the road, and success measures always lag behind the action. And that's a key lesson to learn. Patience with purpose. Know your timelines, stick with them, and don't try to rush, and don't expect miracles. Doesn't matter that everywhere we are, everything is instantaneous at a touch of a button. That's not how it works in the world of work, and it's not how it works with human interaction. So be patient, but be patient with purpose. I embarked on a journey of listening to others and making informed decisions. I didn't have all the answers, nor did I know what to do. Even now, I've just really been winging it, but winging it with informed intent. So I effectively got on with it and shared both the journey and the outcomes achieved. And that's what's helped me to take people along with me. The trick I found was to demonstrate results, because once you can show how things can be achieved, people then become curious and a bit more confident, and they want to learn, and it's an absolute ripple effect. I don't see myself as an HR practitioner these days. I see myself as a people champion, taking on challenges and supporting the business to get where it needs to be. I'm a business person looking through a people lens. And at the moment, it means that I'm leading the people and the commercial operations, right? That includes engineering and a lot of other commercial functions. I've never done any of that in my life. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, but I am a people person, and that's my superpower. So where we have people challenges or we need to unlock people, then I can go in there and we can do that. You don't need to have all the answers, and you certainly don't need to be an expert in everything, but listen to others and connect with those that have the knowledge, experience, or expertise that you don't or you need. And the people around you will have all the answers. All you need to do is to listen with intent and help be their cheerleader and their champion and help themselves to make it happen. My purpose is to unleash the value of people to realise commercial success, because in reality, organisations are just a house. That's all they are. They're not an entity. They don't have a personality. They don't have a voice, but the people inside it do. And when those people are connected to purpose and have an environment that enables them to thrive, this means that they understand what value they bring, what value they receive, and ultimately how valued they are. That's when the real magic happens, and it just happens to include positive commercial outcomes. All I do is listen, observe, and ask questions, and I just connect the dots and help people to take the first steps along the road. So I would just urge you to be confident, be bold, and stay true to yourself. Thank you.
Wow, Michelle. Thank you. You can take a breath now. Michelle, thank you so much. That was phenomenal, as always, as I know you are. You said some really important things there that I'm sure have resonated with so many people, and you do epitomise everything and role model what is great about the people profession. And you've definitely sent Joe Wright's goosebumpometer off as usual, as you always do. But you talked about, you know, walking in the shoes of others, that the answers are out there in the organisation, having conversations and connecting people to the purpose. That came out really loud and clear. Listening with intent and reconnecting with the purpose, and you need a growth mindset, and it's instant when that happens. You talked about enhancing day to day and not adding to people's workloads. You were honest and authentic, and be patient, because actually the results will come. And everything, to me, everything you talk about, you are a cheerleader of people, and you know, no wonder you're one of HR's most influential, because let's get your message out there loud and clear. And that's why you're here with us today, because you know, we're proud to have you as our #1 customer with the big badge, but actually being a super fan, because we just talk the same language. So Michelle, thank you for taking the time, and I know we'll have questions at the end, so I think you can take a breath for now, but we'll definitely be calling on you in the next 10 minutes or so for more questions. So thanks, Michelle, and I'll carry on if that's okay now, and we'll get onto the questions later.
There's just one thing that I would really add.
Go on.
Conversations are not difficult. So I've got probably about four, 5 killer questions that I ask to create a really good conversation. And that is, what brings you to work every day and what do you enjoy? What frustrates you and why? If it was your business, what would you change to make that better? And how do you think that could be done? That's all inviting conversation from the other person and to talk about themselves. Yeah. And then the killer part at the end of that is, well, what's stopping you from doing that then? And that's when you then start talking about what's the next step, and you can open that up, and you can actually then ask what support do they need. That conversation I did before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and even today, yesterday, I was having the same conversation, and it just keeps taking people along that journey. And it's not a conversation that you just have once, it's a conversation that you continue to have every day. Absolutely, because things change. So what somebody said 2 years ago is maybe not exactly how they're feeling right now. So, and for those of you, if you're scribbling things down from Michelle, we've got those questions on a slide at the end, and also we're going to share the recording as well. So thank you, Michelle, so much. That was super powerful with your superpower.
So what have we been talking about? It's absolutely about HR becoming more human, enabling leaders and managers to do the same. We've been talking about growth mindset. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about empathy, powerful and meaningful conversations, gathering feedback, listening with intent, all building trust. And as Michelle talks about, it's about letting people know that you see and hear them and that you're there for them and how can you help them. Fundamentally, everything Michelle's just been talking about and what we're describing is a coach approach, asking great questions, listening, building relationships and building trust. And that's where we can come in to support. So let me just share a little bit about coaching culture, because here at Coaching Culture, it's everything we talk about. We exist to make work better. That's what we say, that's what we do. And we have the solutions that put conversations at the heart. We absolutely pride ourselves in bringing a coaching culture to life. And what we mean by a coaching culture is everything, the things that Michelle has just been talking about, all the great things about listening to people, asking great questions, building relationships. So let me briefly share our solutions that we're very, very proud of and that more than 100 customers around the world are using. So this is very brief, but they're really powerful solutions. And these are solutions that Michelle has got. Mindset. We've got a digital self-coaching tool. It's super, super innovative and we're extremely proud of it. And mindset's all about raising self-awareness in individuals and people to create sustainable behaviour change. We've got a library of 24 self-coaching modules, and these include topics such as growth mindset, positive attitude, emotional intelligence, well-being, resilience, imposter syndrome, all the things that we're talking about. This is about not just leaders and managers, everybody in the organisation understanding themselves better to be able to make an impact to themselves, to change their own mindset and behaviours and to help those around them. Only until you understand yourselves can you help those around you. And this is what mindset does. And it's super, super innovative in that it's self-coaching exercises and raises self-awareness to get people to think differently. It is phenomenal.
Can I just add on the mindset piece, right? One of the things one of the reasons why I brought mindset into the business, because it enabled me to very quickly and easily give people something that said, we've invested in you and you have the power to grow yourself. And you know, Joe talks about 24 self-coaching modules. Just to be really clear, that's not because everybody should do every 24. Some people might not need some of them, but it means that you can be targeted. You can look after your high achievers. You can also be supporting those that really want to learn and want to drive forward. So for me, it was something I was able to bring out my back pocket and give to people when they were ready, but actually have at my arsenal to be able to deliver a targeted approach. And we weaved it into one-to-ones and coaching conversations with people as well. How are you getting on with that? What are you learning? Why do you think that activity came up? What have you learned from it? And it really just helped to drive that forward.
And I suppose for me to add there, Michelle, we actually created Mindset because we felt that professional coaching that really tapped into people's thoughts, feelings and behaviours as opposed to just tasks was reserved for professional externally accredited coaches coming in with the exec or the leadership team. So this actually helps individuals who may not get an external coach for many, many years. This was about making coaching affordable and accessible, and it absolutely, you know, gets coaching out to the masses. So that's where the difference is that actually people can start reflecting on their own thoughts and feelings and behaviours and not have to wait for some leadership development program years down the line. So it's definitely for the masses. Then we've also created coaching lessons. Now this is a fabulous and one of the most broad out there and deep out there of coaching content. This is about helping people build confidence and capability to develop a coach approach, whoever that may be, whether it's the HR team, whether it's leaders and managers. This is about helping people really build our own capability in everything we've been talking about today. And it does include topics such as not just building trust and rapport, giving effective feedback, coaching for emotional intelligence, for well-being, for resilience, coaching through change, all the things that everything we're talking about today in an organization is needed to help the organizational success. So reconnecting people through asking great questions, listening, building trust and rapport, all the things that are making a difference. And Michelle, I guess you've also got our coaching lessons. So, you know, this is
that. Yeah. So what more can I say about coaching lessons, in that they are brilliant on their own, they are brilliant as pre-work, they're brilliant as after work, and they're brilliant as refresher lessons. And they can be done together, they can be done in an order, or they can be done in any way, shape or form for what you need. So you can actually use them when you need to have a bit of an intervention, or you want to refresh someone or remind someone about something. Because learning for people is a blended approach. So it's not just about having the conversation, it's allowing them the time to reflect, it's allowing them the time to go and do something a little bit differently or digitally if that's what they need. So it just adds to your arsenal of tools to drive that forward quickly and easily in a variety of different situations.
Thanks, Michelle. And then we've got conversations. Everything we're talking about is conversations, and our platform is there to make coaching and feedback part of everyday life. It's absolutely about building confidence for that coach approach. It helps to embed a coaching culture. All the things we're talking about today is about meaningful and impactful conversations that demonstrate care, empathy, build trust. Everything is that coach approach. And we do have these solutions, and our platform includes conversations that you can capture, because ultimately what gets written gets done. We've got coaching questions, we've got well-being questions, we've got the ability to give and receive feedback, capture information throughout the organisation through surveys, assess capability for coaching, also set objectives and goals, and tap into the library of content at the moment or at the point of need. All the things that we're talking about today that are making a difference, and we do have those solutions.
Do you know what is the most exciting part of this solution? And just to put it out there, the solutions that Joe's talking about are not separate. They come in the one platform and accessible in the one way. Is that this is the most exciting one because it is end user centric. It's about the employee showcasing what they're doing, what they're working on, how they're adding value, and it absolutely enables the manager to be that coach. It is not manager down, it's employee up, and it is supportive of human conversation, as well as driving action and objectives. You know, most things get discussed, they're in a notebook, they get lost, but actually this platform enables all of that to be captured so that people can actually positively move through their journey rather than kind of bumble along. And as I say, it's the most exciting part of the solution package, because it's end user centric. It lets people showcase rather than be told. Happy days.
Happy days. Thanks, Michelle. So we've created something already, because you may be thinking, oh, this all sounds really well and good, but we have created something, and we've created a ready-made solution for people to try out our solutions. Because one thing we often find is that, you know, people are like, oh, you know, how are we going to even do this? Well, we've got something that we've created for people to pilot and try out our solutions to enable meaningful conversations. And it's not even about you having to work hard, because we've done it for you and we hold your hand every step of the way. It's called the coach approach. We bring it all together. It puts conversations at the heart of everything, bringing together empathy, trust, data, and enabling leaders and managers to empower others. So get that decision making throughout the organisation. The platform, including the coaching questions, well-being questions, a whole library of questions that leaders and managers can tap into to help them when they're wondering what questions to tap into. And we all know that sometimes you can get people testing them to ask open questions, but they can still close them down. Well, these questions are there right in the platform to help them at the point of need. We've got workshops to understand why coaching matters now more than ever. So not as much the what and the how, but the why. So really get the hearts and minds of everybody who attends to realise this is it. This is the thing that matters. Obviously, tap into using our coaching lessons, all the things we've talked about, mindset as well, and feedback to understand, when people are confident to give and receive feedback, you really are starting to build trust and rapport. Now, again, you might be thinking, oh, well, this is all well and good, Joe, but budgets are tight at the moment. You talked to us earlier about the financial crises. Well, you'll be delighted to know we've done this on purpose. We've designed it in a way that's great value and affordable. In fact, so affordable, you could stick it on your credit card. So the end game of all of this, and it's what we're all moving forward for, is a coaching culture. And our definition of a coaching culture is a place where authentic leaders and managers help people to grow, thrive and perform through effective conversations, honest feedback underpinned by trust. All the things that Michelle has been talking about, all the data and research that McKinsey have shared, this is what it's about. It's about being more human, and that's what a coaching culture is. So now we've put some practical takeaways. We couldn't have a webinar with no practical takeaways to take away. So please, think about these, go away and reflect after today, and we'll reconnect after the webinar to think how we can support you best. But here's some of the key takeaways that we recommend from today. So the coaching questions to unlock valuable insight. These are the questions that Michelle talked about earlier. What do you enjoy most about your role? What frustrates you the most? What would you change if this was your business? And what's stopping you from changing that right now? Think about how you can start tapping into the organisation with these questions, and teams and individuals. Fabulous insight. And as Michelle often says, answering these questions writes your own people strategy. And also these practical takeaways. It's about going back to human, putting people first. Be curious, listen with intent, and build trust through conversations. Enable and empower business leaders and managers to adopt that coach approach. It's everything we're talking about. Go survey the organisation and unblock the blockers. Think about what's going on there and listen to what people listen with intent, and provide the right solutions and the environment for the organisation to thrive. And that's exactly what Michelle said earlier. It's about enhancing the day-to-day environment for people and not getting in the way and not adding to people's workload. It's about optimizing and enhancing that.
And I would just add at the end of that, just remember that the working relationship is 50-50. People don't come to work to do a bad job. They come to work because they want to do a good job. Mm-hmm. They come to work because they want to feel a sense of purpose. They want to feel valued. They want to feel that they get value behind it. They get value from that. They can't do that if they don't understand what's expected, if they're not connected to the purpose, and they are not given the environment to be able to thrive and drive. And if you can put that all into place and hold them accountable to do so. So you said, we did, now we need to deliver. If you're not delivering, why not? And go back in and have that human approach, then everything will come together well.
Thanks, Michelle. So last slide. Thanks for taking the time to listen today, and all feedback is welcomed. And if you would like to learn more how we can help you with this, let's carry on that conversation. Let's have a strategic discussion about your organisation and get to know more how we can help. Later today, we'll email you with the recording and the slides, certainly the slides today, hopefully the recording as well. But please email me back with any feedback. And please do let me know if you'd like to carry on the conversation, because I'm absolutely confident we can have that strategic discussion about how we can best help you. So thank you very much. Again, don't forget, join our community. There's a lot of you already members of our community, but you get access to all these free resources. So please do make sure you join the community today at www.coachingculture.com. So thank you for your time today. I'm really happy now to move over into the chat or into opening up discussion. Any questions at all for myself and Michelle? We've still got how many minutes left? 9 minutes or so, or 10 minutes. So let's go over to some questions, if there's any at all.
We've had a couple of really, really good observations, Jo, just as people are putting the questions in.
Go for it.
It demonstrates the value of quality conversations, the fact that Rob has said, the third question about what they would change. We've convinced ourselves that people are fear and hate change, but they actually talk about wanting to change every day. What they fear is change being done to them rather than with them. And that's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, spot on. Any questions, any feedback coming through? What place do you see for recognised coaching qualifications? I'm happy to answer that, or Michelle, if you both.
I know you carry on, because I know there's a massive place for it. It's about blended. Carry on.
So I've not shared it today, if you can see me, because that's a little triangle. I've got a little triangle of a model of, I suppose, the triangle of coaching capability at the very top. It's that professional level 7 equivalent external accredited coach, absolutely a place for that. Then we've got internally accredited coaches, and often that goes to HR where they want to have accreditations, absolutely valuable. Then we've got leader and manager as coach, then we've got peer-to-peer coaching, and then we've got self-coaching, this whole, and there's a place for all of it. I think recognised coaching qualifications are really important, adds credibility. I think there's some that if you're when you're working internally, I don't think it's as essential. There's an absolute place for them, but not everybody can afford the whole organisation to get a qualified coaching qualification.
Can I just say, I don't have one. If anybody's, I don't have a recognised coaching qualification. I'd love to have one, but I don't.
And that's it. So I was a leader who coached for many, many years without a qualification. I knew I wanted to build a coaching business and carry on the coaching from a expertise and credibility perspective. But when I was, you know, a leader with no coaching qualifications, that worked brilliant, because it's not a dark art or rocket science. It's about human to human conversations and communication, and there is a skill to it. So great question. There's definitely a place, but it doesn't mean everybody in the whole organization is because that's a whole lot of money. And actually that's where things like mindset and lessons comes in. So you don't need to get coaching qualifications. You can give people a level of capability and confidence for a whole lot more. You can more bang for your buck, should I say, in terms of getting your money to go further.
There's a great question in for about what qualifications would you recommend for HRBP level. I'm going to take that one if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So a little bit of insight about me. When I fell into HR, when just before I was 20, I didn't have any qualifications at all. I left school, broken down family, left school, and I didn't actually go back to study for a long time after that. And I only went back to study because I didn't think that I was good enough in the job that I was in. And when I went and did the qualification, I actually came out going, I do know what I'm talking about, actually. So I think I wouldn't get too hung up about what qualifications you need to have. I would get hung up about the fact that, are you curious enough about people, and are you interested in what that means? And there are loads of things that you can do to get qualifications. You know, you can do CIPD stuff. There's lots of other stuff that's out there as well. You know, some brilliant other organisations that do practical HR topics. I get lots of solicitor updates and do webinars and things like this, because that's about increasing my knowledge and expertise, but also giving me access to other people who I can share from and hear ideas and solutions. So I wouldn't get too hung up about the qualification aspect. I would focus more on understanding people and using experiences to your advantage.
And we get asked about qualifications, and we've got an absolute catalogue of fantastic workshops, 9 workshops that are all linked to coaching, the coach mindset, skilled coach. We've got obviously the coach approach, giving and receiving feedback, building trust and psychological safety. We've created through myself and our brilliant coaching facilitators to deliver these workshops that are absolutely spot on for leaders and managers throughout the organisation. They're absolutely hitting the sweet spot, and actually complemented, a blended solution with our digital solutions work brilliantly. The two together are fantastic. Someone asked me recently if I had an experience coaching senior, if I had experience. I see it differently, that I'm coaching the person, not the role. I'd be curious to hear your view. Absolutely, 100% agree. You are coaching the person, absolutely, and not the role. You are so right. I find it really strange when people say to me, so what's your specific focus in coaching? Sorry, it's not my focus. It's the focus of the person I'm coaching. What are you on about? You know, so people say, oh, you know, it's so genuinely, it's about that person. Absolutely that person, and it doesn't matter what their role. Now, don't get me wrong, some people prefer it if you've had years and years of coaching hours or experience, but this is about connecting on a human to human basis, asking great questions, listening, building trust and rapport. And we all know that to be able to coach, you don't need to understand about that person's subject matter, because then you're moving into mentoring territory. This is about asking great questions. Right, these questions are making me have to read really quickly. Right, for how many programming we're coaching training to enable them to build those great confidence. What people blah blah blah. Oh, hang on, another one's Rob, I've not finished reading the other one. Have a great I know. Yeah. Worked really well.
The rest are mainly observations. We've
Yeah.
answered most of the questions, and
But-
people are just brilliantly sharing where you can get further information about coaching, what books that you can read. You know, there's an apprenticeship and some HR skills and some coaching skills as well, which I'm going to have a look at. So yeah, there's some really, really good stuff there, and I'm sure that we'll be able to share some of those insights from the chat as we share the recording as well, Jo, can't we?
Definitely, and I just wouldn't want people to get hung up on qualification. You know, often qualifications can really help. You know, if you're going out to be an external professionally accredited coach, actually, you know, like Michelle's a coach in her business at the highest level without a qualification. So, you know, let's think about all the resources available to you to be able to unlock and give people confidence and practical application and practice day in, day out through everyday conversations. Thank you both, very inspiring. I felt lost recently and now I know what I need to do. Thank you, that sounds amazing.
I just want to cry at that.
We can have a cry after the call, Michelle,
Yeah.
You know what we're like. Thanks all, feeling very connected and got some energy back from you all through that. Thank you. And I might as well do one last very shameless plug, but if any of you want to join us at our conference coming up in the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks today, we'll all be feeling frazzled and energized all together from a fabulous coaching culture conference, because on November the 3rd, we have got over 150 like-minded professionals in a room and then celebrating on the evening with the awards. So we're all getting our glitz and glamour ready right now, because this topic is so important, not just for today's employees, but for the future. And that's why we're so passionate about it. On that note,
so that's good.
On that note, please do feedback to me later on email and let us know how we can support. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great Friday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.